Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I could, I'd like to introduce the color guard from the Post 3 American Legion. If I could, I'd like to have you stand and remove your hats as they present colors.
Let us say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, tonight we have gathered together for a special occasion in our community. Lord, we thank you for the provision of Buster and what he's going to add to our police force. Lord, we ask that you would bless him, bless those who will be trained to be his handler, and Lord, we would be able to see the benefit of having him as a part of the police force here. Lord, we ask that you would bless the food to the nourishment of our bodies tonight. Bless the fellowship and the fun that we want to have here. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be dismissed. Right. You may be seated. Thank you.
I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm sorry it's such a small crowd, but those of you that have decided to join us, I sure appreciate it. This event is going to be, as Mick said, a huge asset to our community. I'm hoping that we all see in the future what a great provision that this dog will bring to our community. At this time, the ladies are getting the food ready. They will be served to you. You do not have to get up and go get anything. However, feel free to continue to walk around. Feel free to get drinks. The men are bored at the alcohol stand. Please help them out. They are very bored at the alcohol stand. The salad will be presented to you, I think, just shortly, and then spaghetti smells like it's ready. Here comes our dog now.
Does he play fetch?
Oh, shit. That probably hurt.
Hello, I'm Craig Brothers. This is Cal and my son. We operate B3 Canine Training out of Gillette. I formerly was a police officer in Gillette for 26 years, so I ran a narcotics unit and then oversaw our canine unit as well. Since I retired, we've worked together working with police dogs. Our goal was to provide Wyoming with police dogs trained in our state, because for ages we've had to leave and travel across the country to get this kind of dog. And then we also work with our animal shelter, because a lot of times they get dogs that aren't wanted and aren't fit for a home life, or home environment. And before we were reached out and contacted by the Newcastle Police Department, we actually were contacted by the animal shelter in Gillette. And they said they had this dog that just kept getting returned because he's too much to live at home as a pet. So we went there and we met Buster, and it was pretty obvious to us that he was probably a working quality dog. So we took him with us. We've been working with him for a while, and we started training him on drug odors. and trilling and discovered that he really has a knack for that. He's right now, he just wants to work. He's not a couch potato. So he takes a lot of exercise. And then we were contacted by the Newcastle Police Department, and they were looking for a dog. And we just happened to have this one. I was telling about him that I thought he was really just a perfect fit for the community and for what they're trying to do with their program. So they came over and met him, and he took to them right away as well. So it was pretty obvious that it was a really good match, and I think he's going to do really good over here too in your community for you. But he is a worker. He is no slouch. He wants to be going all the time. But he currently, he's one of the dogs we've been training. From my career, we always, when you have drug dogs, a lot of people, they didn't encourage them to do any type of tracking or anything like that with them. I'm of a different belief that I think when you're paying the kind of money these dogs cost, you ought to get more bang for your buck. So we do trilling with them as well, and evidence. So he's going to do a lot of the stuff that these apprehension dogs do, but without the biting. So he does go out and he'll trail people, and he'll find evidence that they may lose if they're running from law enforcement. But he'll also go out and locate just lost people. So he's just not to find bad guys. He's helped to help the community find people that get lost or children that are lost. We even call that a lot to help with our dogs. And that's why we've also encouraged more of them to use dogs like this for that same purpose, because they provide more to the community that an apprehension dog can't provide. So this will be our 7th dog in the state that's doing this type of work. And we've had really great luck with it, and they're doing really well in the communities. They're in Crook County has one doing the same stuff that Buster does here. Yeah. Any questions for us about what you're going to be getting? Well, it's funny you asked that because we wondered too. So we actually did a DNA test on Buster here, and Buster's his last name, just so you know. So we did a DNA test through Embark. So he is Pit Bull, American Bully, Border Collie, and Healer. So he's four solid different breeds, which it's kind of funny because I kind of saw Pit Bull. I didn't see Border Collie or some of these other things, but that's what we ended up with Buster here. He's very athletic. Yes, sir. So we've been doing work with him for several months already, and we'll start working with his handler here in May. So it'll be 6 weeks of training with the handler. But he's already trained on all his drug odors that he's going to go find cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana. And he started on trailing, and he really does love to go find people. Because when we trail with the dogs, he gets a toy at the end, and he lives for his toy. He loves to play. Anybody else? I'm sorry, you gotta yell at me. How old? He's just over a year old. We got him when he was just shy of a year.
How long will he work?
That really depends on the dog. Providing there's no injuries or anything like that, you could see him work till he's 8 to 10 years of age. It really depends. I know a dog in Gillette right now, that dog is 8. He's a dual purpose dog, and he's got a medical condition going on now, so he's about at the end of his career. Some dogs I've seen work till like they're 10 or 12, but it really is. It's kind of like the athletes, it depends on what injuries they sustain. His biggest enemy is he does everything at 150%. There's nothing halfway, so that'll be his biggest obstacle. And Kelly's, because he's going to drag her all over the countryside.
So being a working dog, does he have to have a specific diet?
He needs to have a really healthy diet, so we have him on, it's a food that we provide right now, it's called Red Paw. It's really high in protein and fat. So it's a really high calorie diet, and you can see he's not fat at all. But he's eating about 4 cups a day, which normally as a house pet, we'd see a house pet eats 2 to 3 cups a day. And he's not a big dog, and he's eating 4 cups. So a lot of our bigger Malinois eat the same amount of food as he does, but he just burns it up. What's that? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Is he a hard learner?
No, he's a pretty quick learner. His biggest thing is he's not very patient. Yeah, he's just always going like this all the time. I believe so. I don't know what their plan is, but I believe it's just going to be with one handler. That's generally what they do. Just because it's every person works the dogs differently, and if you start mixing it up, it does confuse the dog, and they're not quite as good or proficient. Pardon? I'm sorry, I can't hear it. Nope, just narcotics and trailing and evidence is the only training he's going to have.
Could take 6 weeks to train her to follow the dog.
Yeah, we'll see if she picks it up as quick as he does. Remarkably, it's without the handler knowing how to work the dog, we worked with other handlers that came from other canine programs actually this year, that they didn't get trained very well. The dog came to them trained, and they didn't get a lot of training, and they were struggling. So that's what we want to provide too. Is I've trained dogs at the police department. I handled dogs for 12 years there. So I know how all those elements work and how important it is that the handler gets as much training as the dog does. Because it's more than just holding on the leash, which is a lot of people think that's all you do. But there's a lot involved on the handler's end that they have to be able to do and read what the dog's doing. And when the dog isn't finding what we want him to find, the handler has to know how to help them. And then how to maintain that training. Yes, sir.
Actually, I have a question for Kelly, if it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
How are you? What are you thinking on this opportunity? How's this with you right
I'm
now?
really excited for it. I think it'll be an awesome thing for the community. We had obviously one dog with the sheriff's office here recently who had passed away. And I think having them in the school is also going to be another huge bonus. Sean Crabtree is who purchased Buster, and he's a big supporter of him being in the school and helping to keep that stuff out of school because of some incidents that we had last year.
Thank you.
And to touch on that, I can tell you, without the dogs being an officer for the time that I was, we wouldn't have found a lot of the drugs that we found if it wouldn't have been for the dogs that we had working with us. And when I started with our program, I started this one drug dog, and when I retired, they have 4 dual-purpose dogs now. So it's really grown. The community's seen the impact the dogs have, and it's hard to walk away from that and take a resource away now that they've got used to that and what it provides the community. And I think as you guys will see, you'll see more and more from him and what the city's getting from us.
How much does he get paid?
He gets paid 4 cups of food a day.
And toys.
He's the cheapest employee you got to be the hardest working one. They're tough to beat.
Does he stay with Kelly then all the
Yep,
time?
I believe that's the plan is. And you'll need to answer some of these, I think.
I think you're doing a great job.
They usually live with the handlers, and that's what we encourage. Because we want them to live in the house too. We don't want them to live in a kennel. It's very important that they get to socialize. This is pretty intimidating to him because he has not seen people in this quantity without doing something. So this is unusual for him. He's going to get to see more of it as he's with Kelly and doing more. But initially, they just don't get to see a lot of that. When we get dogs from Europe, which is predominantly a lot of our dogs come from, they don't even know what a TV is or stairs are because they're just raised to work. So the first time they see a television, they think that's a real person. I see them start growling at people on TV. This intimidating. So he's getting to see a lot of different people. He's going to see a lot of stuff when he gets assigned with the department and get to see everything every day.
Do you train Kelly, or does she have to go somewhere else?
Nope, we do the whole thing. We train the handlers too. The big thing is where I worked in law enforcement with dogs in the state of Wyoming, that I can provide for all information that's appropriate to our area. When you go out of state, you don't have that insight. Because everybody applies their dogs differently, the laws are different in different states and areas as well.
So has he already done a drug run yet?
He does, he finds our drugs every day. So we actually train him with real drugs all the time, and he is very proficient at it. Some of the video that if you were watching there, if you can see it, he was finding drugs all the time, and he just lives for it. And as soon as he gets his toy, he just ricochets all over our training area. Yes, sir.
When he trains with Kelly and as he's trained with you, how much of that training is done in public settings?
Most of it. So we'll get out in different areas. It's just not areas that is this full of people. So we'll be like, even when we do schools, we really isolate where people practice so there's not a lot of distraction. Anyway, when you deploy a dog in a school setting, but he's going to see that environment, so he's going to see a lot more than the average police dog does, which is good. The more exposure they get, the more confident they are in those areas. Right now, environmentally, he's super, super confident. He's on top of stuff, he's climbing things, and that, again, those are things that average house dog does not do. So when we look for dogs, we're looking for a really special breed, and that is Buster. He does all that for us. Very, very confident dog. The biggest thing is he's still really young. He's barely over a year. So he was living in a shelter for a while, and then he's with us, so he's just not got to see as much of the world yet as he's going to. And you see, he's pretty happy about life.
You want to be like a dog you can't touch.
No, we don't encourage them being handled a lot when they're out working just because we want them to stay on task. And also, if he misconstrues a toy, we make sure he's going to grab his toy wherever it's at. So when we bring any type of police dog out into the public for people to handle, we want to really control it because they're dogs and they're grabbing stuff. And he's grabbed a hold of me before and never broke the skin, but never be mean. He thinks that it's a toy. It's because we do play tug and we're used to it. I mean, part of working dogs is getting bit. But
What about when she takes it to school? All them students.
if it's controlled by her, yeah, it shouldn't just be a petting zoo. Yeah, it should be a controlled setting. And that's just for everybody's benefit. There's just so much going on that if they get stepped on, hair pulled, eye poked, or whatever, we see those things happen all the time if that environment's not controlled at all. Yes, ma'am.
Since they'll have him in the school, what will the parents and children need to expect if she'll have him in the school?
That if they bring drugs, he's going to find them?
Right. But I mean, people will want to know like what their children are allowed to or not allowed to approach.
That's gonna be change as he's in the school longer. They're gonna have to fill it out because they've never had him in a dog in there before. So this is kind of gonna be a learning process. So I'm sure it's gonna be changing daily or weekly or anything like that. Go ahead. Nope. Just methamphetamine, heroin, marijuana, and cocaine. That's it. So yeah, being in the school, to my knowledge, he's going to be the only dog assigned to a school resource officer in the state of Wyoming.
That's great.
So I've worked with agencies in Texas that their SROs actually have dogs in the schools, but this is a first for Wyoming. So it's a groundbreaking event here, and they're going to kind of set the standard, I think, for a lot of the other agencies of how the dogs are deployed and working there. So they're going to be experimenting and sit and find out a lot of stuff for us that nobody else has had to deal with yet.
Good.
He won't be able to sniff fentanyl.
Well, he's not trained specifically on fentanyl, but one of the things with Border Patrol, they have one of the largest canine programs in the country. And what they ran into is they weren't discouraged from training their dogs on fentanyl because it's a legal substance. You can be prescribed that. We don't hand out prescriptions for methamphetamine or cocaine yet. So they're not trained. So they discouraged them to be trained on that. But what they did do is they took a good majority of their dogs out and they ran them past fentanyl. Those dogs did indicate that there were fentanyl being present. There's a variety of philosophies why that happens is because your drug traffickers, they don't just traffic fentanyl, they traffic cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine. They traffic all those drugs, and those drugs are trafficked in the same compartments, they're stored together and everything else. So the big philosophy is that there's probably a cross-contamination. That those odors have, if they traffic around other drugs, that odor is clinging to them, that's what the dogs are going to
Probably put fentanyl in them other drugs too.
Yep, absolutely. No, the same thing is that these dogs do find money as well, and the reason they find money is because it's stored with drugs. So that's the same thing with fentanyl. And for ages, we had, I remember ecstasy was kind of big back in the beginning of my career, which is a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So we were finding ecstasy with our dogs too, but they weren't trained on ecstasy. So again, it's really hard to show the science behind that because we can't have a conversation with them and say what did you specifically smell. But the best we can do is there's that odor has been cross-contaminated from another drug. And nowadays it's become even worse than it used to be is nobody uses just one drug. If you have marijuana users, if you find one that only uses marijuana, it's uncommon. One of the last ladies I was arrested, her preference was cocaine and heroin, or not cocaine, I'm sorry, methamphetamine and heroin. And it was specific, so she would go to Colorado for that specific fix. So they kind of become their own pharmacist, and they figure out what makes them feel the way they're looking to feel, and it usually is not one drug. I've seen people that mix methamphetamine with marijuana because they don't want the complete depressive effect of marijuana, and they don't want to be too high with methamphetamine, so they'll use both and try to counteract the other drug. So, as far as marijuana, the last marijuana we seized before I retired was 30% THC. That was the plant material. Now the edibles were real big too, and those are around 80-90% THC. So when everybody talks about that type of drug, that was 3% is the drug everybody remembers. 30% is different. I dealt with a gentleman, high on marijuana. He was trying to call home on his pack of Marlboro, and he did not reach home. Yeah. The call did not connect. Sorry. Yes, sir.
So if there is a search and rescue that needs to happen, and he's loaned out to search and rescue, Will Kelly
is he's going to be able to go find people.
Are you going to be going on those with them?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, bless him. For the community, we had a search and rescue last year, and these two gentlemen came down with their other dog, and they covered a lot of country. The dog was really well trained, and these two are really professional, so whatever they're bringing is going to be a hell of an asset to the community.
Thank you. What is your question, young lady? Is he potty trained? Most of the time. Just don't put a fire hydrant in the house.
So he's really alert with the kids. I've watched him. Is there a difference why he's more alert with the kids than he are? Because they're moving? Is that the reason?
They're more animated.
Yeah, they're moving.
So that's prey drive. It's like if I take a ball out and throw it. The little kids are like a big walking bouncy ball. They're all over the place, and that gets the dog's attention. So they want to go chase and play around.
Okay, the other question I have is he's going to Kelly's to live, and Kelly's got 3 other dogs. How does that affect his care with her, with other dogs?
They just have to, there'll be a process of acclimating to the home. Like most of the dogs that go to our police officers, I think every dog that we're assigning right now lives with other dogs. So it's just a process, and those are Malinois, and he'll be no different. Is he just going to have to get used to them? Most dogs will acclimate into that home life. Some don't, but that's not common. Most of them will assimilate into the family and be just fine. I had one dog that ages ago, he came home and he tried to get rid of the family cat. He broke a closet door down, but within months, that cat slept on top of the dog. So it was pretty remarkable. I mean, the dog had obviously never been around cats, but he did acclimate, and that was a house full of 2 little boys and 2 cats. And he's perfect. But not every dog gets there. I mean, that's what we got to understand is they are going to get a police dog. Then when they came to us, that's what they wanted. They didn't want a house dog. They wanted a police dog. And that's what we always tell people is most police dogs will assimilate and be that. Some don't. But again, his priority is to go do his job first. And then we work on the other stuff. But we do get around people. We want them to be social and not distracted by all the people. So we do work on all that. But as far as living in the home, that's what they're going to experiment with, and they'll assimilate into their house as it works for him.
So no dog's going to come in and be a dominant dog?
What's that?
He's not going to come in and try to be the dominant dog?
I have no idea. Don't know the other dogs.
Hello. I see you.
He probably will be the most active dog in the house. I wager that. Anybody else? All right. Let you answer all the tough ones. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg and Callan, for being here. I really appreciate it.
It was interesting when he was removed. There's quite a few people that will remember my comments at the time because it came after Ogden reportedly, I guess you should say, because
it was reported, and then he claimed that didn't happen, but we all saw the letters where he made the chairmans of the board sign that we're going to do this and that and the other thing, and we're not going to disobey. And
we're not going to disobey. I love that. I love that part. We're not going to disobey.
Pretty much. That's what I got
Yeah.
from it. Reading it is, aye, Captain, we will follow your rule. It kind of made me look a little different at Driscoll. And then this year's made
Well,
it
and you
even-
didn't just look different. Come on. You gave him a nickname even.
I gave him a nickname. He was saved in my phone still to this day as Dictator Driscoll. And I still don't feel bad about that because Weston County hasn't seen him once leading up to this session.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and supporting this program. It really means a lot to us. We've had some people that weren't as impressed with the program as you all have shown you are. It does mean a lot to everybody support us. Just tell you a little bit about how the whole idea came to be. For one, Kelly's always wanted to be a dog handler, and her numbers truly show that she was the one that could successfully handle a dog. One of the things you got to look for in a handler is to make sure that they're the people that are finding the drugs, they're the people that are out there working to clean the place up, and her numbers supported that. Kind of an interesting scenario. The chief prior to me put her in the school as a school resource officer. And it was something that I honestly, I didn't know how well it was going to work out. It's worked out amazingly well. We've gotten a lot of positive from the school district, from the parents, from students. Having her in the school, it's helped us out tremendously. We've been able to interdict some things that were pretty important in the community. So that position has worked out really well. And the one thing we do see in the school is there's an influx of drugs. You know, there's mainly marijuana is what we see, and being so close to Colorado and that being such a popular thing these days, that's what we see in the school. And I think this dog's going to help us from a lot of angles. If drugs are brought to school, we'll probably have a whole lot better chance of finding them. And it's also going to serve a really good deterrent effect that can keep kids from bringing things to school that they shouldn't. One of the questions I've heard a lot, and I'll just kind of touch on some of the things I guess I've heard, and then I'll open it up for you guys to ask me whatever you want, but is why are we funding the dog the way we are? Well, for one, we're not asking the general taxpayer to raise their taxes or to fund it through monies that are filtered through the government. Budgets are tight, times are tough, and they're just getting tougher, and they're going to continue to get tougher. So the first dog was in this county, to my knowledge. I was involved in that when I worked for the Sheriff's Office. We funded it through the Peace Officers Association, through fundraisers and donations and things like that. So I knew it was doable, and I knew the county was probably not going to fund their next dog that way, so I went to the peace officers and approached them and asked them to help us fund it that way. The next question I have heard is, why can't you get a grant? It's a lot easier said than done. There's not a lot of grant money out there these days because times are so tough, and a community like ours getting a grant for a dog would probably be even tougher. And then the next thing is grants don't cover things like vet bills and food expenses and things like that. So I'm trying not to go to the city and ask for more taxpayer money to fund this program. I'm trying to do it through fundraisers and all that. That's what I was trying to avoid ultimately. And I know all you folks are taxpayers as well, and you're here supporting the program, and I appreciate that. That's by your choice, and I really appreciate that. It's trying to avoid shoving something else down the taxpayer's throat that they don't want, I guess, or they don't want to increase taxes. I don't know if they don't want a dog. So that's in a roundabout way why we decided to go the direction we did with funding. Can I answer anybody's questions? Or?
Chief?
Yes, sir.
Will the buster be used in the parking lot as well as within the building?
He will, yep. So there's multiple different ways you can do it. You can search vehicles, you can search lockers, you can search backpacks, you just can't search people. So you can't have it going around searching actual people. So he will be used in the parking lots, and be used for the lockers and the containers, so backpacks and whatever else, bags, coats, whatever they may have.
So what if he is walking down the hallway? Wants to, yeah, somebody because they might have a drug on him, what do you do?
You know, you can, if he seems to have alerted on a person, the best thing to be is to have a conversation with that person. Why is the dog so interested? And there's a menagerie of different directions that can go from there, but you can't use that to develop your independent probable cause to search that person's.
I looked on the radar and it looked like it's around.
So he will be handled by Kelly Moran, Officer Moran. It is the police department's dog. Yes, they will work together. And they'll probably train together. That's the other luxury of having. We'll have two dogs in the community. The sheriff's office will have one. We will have one. Going to give them the opportunity to train together, to work together, and do things like saturation patrols, where during certain times of the year or certain events where you're concerned that it's going to bring in a lot of drug traffic, they can work together to do 3-air sniffs primarily on traffic stops. Is usually the way that goes in order to try to stop things from coming in or intermix drugs in any other ways.
Are you gonna use Buster in interagency call-outs, like if somebody in Warcraft needs assistance, will you say for a nominal fee go assist them with Buster?
So that's a great question. The idea behind this dog is this dog is funded by the community, by businesses. We want to help as many people as we can. Funding it through the Peace Officers Association, one of the things I told them is that we would try to go to Upton, say 4 times a year and go through their schools for them. Law enforcement, just because of its nature, there's a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of us to do it. So we try to work together as well as we can. So if we can go help Moorcroft without handicapping ourselves, we absolutely can do that. And sometimes it's just a matter of who's the closest dog. And Moorcroft has a dog in their county. So the likelihood of that probably wouldn't be real great, but we would do it.
I was just using that as an example, but I'm just saying you could do interagency.
Right, yeah. And that's one thing, that's one of our drives is to rebuild relationships amongst law enforcement agencies that work together as much as we can. Use each other's tools, use each other's personnel, just develop that relationship back to where we're more efficient and more effective. So, yeah, if we can help somebody out, we absolutely will.
What's the projected cost to vet bills and everything just normal? I mean, not having any emergencies with them.
So that's a question I asked Greg when we were doing our budget for this whole thing, and he said for the vet bills about $1,500 a year. You can figure it was a pretty safe number. That's no emergencies or anything like that. One of the things we're trying to do is to make sure if the dog's injured, needs a surgery or something like that, we have enough money to cover that. And so we're trying to raise enough money that we can make sure that we're taking care of him as well as we possibly can. And if he was either in the line of duty, we would look for him to take care of him as best we can.
Now, will this be like, okay, tonight's a fundraiser for this, will you be doing this every year now?
We're gonna try to do fundraisers as we go on down the road. Obviously, the one thing I guess I want to avoid is I don't want to be out there doing a fundraiser. We have $10,000 to $15,000 in the account. That'll last us a long time. I don't want to be out asking for money again and again if we don't need it. So yeah, but we'll continue to do fundraisers until we don't need it. at a point that we can make sure he's taken care of, and then you always try to project down the road for when it's time to replace him, when he gets old and retires. Replace him.
Question. Now, when Buster retires, will she have the opportunity to him come live with her for the rest of his life?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And that's pretty standard with, I'm not aware of any handlers. I don't know, Greg, if you are.
It's pretty uncommon that the handler doesn't take the dog. They're
Right.
just so close after that time frame. They're one of the few utilities that the department has that actually brings money in. So, and it's pretty neat that drug dealers, for where I was at, they bought all of our dogs. So that was very generous of them. They supplied us with a lot of dogs.
Yeah. They didn't know it.
Oh, they eventually did.
Answer anything for anybody else? No, he's not trained for that. They do have dogs for that, and we've kind of considered looking into that, but no. Yeah, we can't use it for that. And one of the things with that is if we were to use it anywhere other than the school, it's not illegal to possess a firearm in most places outside of schools or federal buildings, things like that. So we wouldn't be able to deploy him anywhere other than those areas where guns are specifically prohibited. That's the reason we can't train for that. We would handicap him, so to say, and make him just use for the school. Yeah, wouldn't know where to turn. Anybody else have any questions?
Where did you come from?
So for the first 12 years of my career, I worked for the Weston County Sheriff's Office. I worked in the detention center for about a year and 8 months. The rest of my time was on patrol. I went to Johnson County for about 2 years as a patrol deputy, and then I came back here about a year and 2 months ago. This whole chief thing wasn't really planned. I just kind of, I don't know it. When the old chief separated, they were just like, "You're it." Okay. So,
Thanks for stepping in, appreciate it.
you're welcome, and thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I was curious, when the dog alerts to something, does that provide you a probable cause for search?
Yes, yes. If
Not
he-
just reasonable suspicion?
Right. A lot of
You don't
times.
need consent at that point?
No, correct. Yeah. And depending on what he alerted on and what the scenario is, maybe you can search it right then and there. And
Oh, if
maybe,
he's already on a child who's walking down the hallway or something.
so that on a person is different. You're not supposed to search people with a dog, so.
That's what yeah, okay, that's that situation. Is it only reasonable suspicion?
I don't even know if he's searching about that.
Consent from parents into search?
So that's a good Kelly question, honestly, because schools are a little bit different. Because their parents aren't present, so to say. Yeah, so the school kind of acts as the parent. And being a school official, depending on the situation, sometimes you can search that child, and sometimes you cannot. So that's part of being a school resource officer is why people use, what's that?
That's nice and clear.
Yeah, nothing is clear in this profession. So that's one of our sayings, you always live in the gray area. You know, there's no absolute yes and absolute no answers most of the time.
Is the dog certified in some way to make that determination?
Certified?
Alerting?
Yes. So it's annually, correct, Greg? They go to a certification for the state, and they go through all this testing and make sure they're
So
alerting on the
speaker
correct
can
things.
testify for it.
Correct, yeah.
His
It would be a lot easier
certification
for us.
has an 80% accuracy rate. which is higher than the federal standard of like 57%.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was long.
And as far as the people, the dogs are trained to detect odor, not the substance. So as far as your question about people, you're not allowed to search people with them. But the big thing is wherever those people have been, they leave odor. Either it's in their locker or in their chair or in their backpack or in the car, and those places can be searched by dogs.
Okay, so yeah, so you got reasonable suspicion, but then you go check those areas. And the dog would probably be probable cause you wouldn't open the locker, keep the lock.
And again, when you start opening stuff, then it's different. If it's going to be handled with the administration of the school, they can do all that. When you start searching from a criminal perspective, you have to be more.
Actually unlock the locker.
Yeah, there's certain situations where if it doesn't follow under a mobile exception, it would require a search warrant to search.
So would you in turn find out where they did? Search their house over?
Again, there's a lot of answers to that question depending on how things crack out. Usually, if they alerted on something, say a locker, and you open that locker and it's empty. Usually you're kind of done there, but maybe you can bring that child in, that locker belongs to you, and explain to them, the dog has alerted on your locker, is there a reason for that? Speak to them and see just why that might be. The other thing we have ran into, and it's kind of an ugly situation, but we've had dogs in the past that alerted on backpacks and say they didn't find anything in that backpack. But you find out that maybe there's some things going on at home that maybe the child is not involved in. Does that make sense? So then that kind of opens the door for a different type of investigation potentially. And that's one thing we ran into a lot with the school resource officer position is we've gotten a lot of children out of situations, interdicted situations that are ugly at home. And that position has really helped us bring those children out. They've found trust in Officer Moran and confided in her and told her what's going on at home to improve their living situation. And it doesn't mean that they always get taken away from the family per se. They may be temporarily, but it allows us to get with mom and dad and maybe get some things straightened out. Hopefully reintegrate those children back into the home and have a better environment. Anybody else have any questions? Alrighty, I'll quit dancing around in circles up here and let you continue on with your night. Thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate it.